Hey, good evening. It's 6:15. Time for today's tax talk with Attorney Stephen Leahy. That's me. I'm Attorney Stephen Leahy. Today we're talking about foreclosures and the COVID recovery plan, and we're going to talk more in depth about this, exactly what that is, and how that can help you. I had a client come in today, but let's start the show. So welcome back to the show. I want to if you haven't joined us before, I'm so glad that you can join us here today. Every night at about 6:15, I come on and I do my daily today's tax talk, where I discuss tax issues. Every day there's something new. I help people with IRS problems, but we also do tax returns, and so we have a lot of other tax issues. We help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. What we help since COVID came in, we developed something we call it the COVID recovery plan. And I had a client come in today, and that's what I wanted to talk about. They were running their own business, and COVID just devastated them. Had to do with kids, and they tried to do it online, but when kids are online all day at the school, they don't want to do any more instruction online. So their business took a hit, and they had to close the doors. And obviously that left them a lot of problems. But they're not the only ones that this is happening to, right? This is happening across the country, especially across here in Illinois. A lot of restaurants. I have a lot of restaurant clients, and we try to help them. Now, here's the thing. Most of my clients are what we call business professionals, right? They run their own business. They've always been very studious. They pay their taxes. They pay their bills on time. All of this, never missed a bill. Put some money aside for the rainy days. Maybe paid down their mortgage. These clients that came in today were older. They put a lot of money into this house that they have, and now they're concerned because they're going to go into foreclosure. They missed a couple of mortgage payments. Their credit card are stacking up, and they can't make the payments anymore. Now they're on Social Security, and that's the only income they have because of COVID. The business is gone. So then we have to figure out, well, how can we do? What can we do about this? Now, I always like to go to. As you know, I like to go to an article, and I have an article up, but some reason I'm having a technical malfunction, so I'm not going to be able to get to the article today to share it with you. But it's an article from the Chicago Tribune today about millions of Americans fear eviction, foreclosure as housing crisis worsens. And there's a moratorium. There's been a moratorium on foreclosures for some time now. It's supposed to come to the end in June, end of June. So end of this month, the moratorium is going to lift. Now, some of the bigger servicer companies like Chase and some others are gearing up, and they're going to start foreclosure procedures. Now, a lot of people, are in this what they call forbearance, and the forbearance is when the mortgage company agreed that you can skip some payments. Now, part of the forbearance is that when it comes back on, say it was 3 months, now it went 6 months. Now it's a year and 6 months, so 18 months. If my payments were $2,000, well, now I have $36,000 in back due mortgage, and if they're coming out of the forbearance agreement, they want me to make that payment. Well, how am I going to do that? Right? If I was having the money, I would have been able to pay my mortgage. Now, some people took the forbearance and they were saving their money because nobody knew what was going to happen. Right? But some people, they just couldn't pay the mortgage, so it didn't matter. And that's kind of where these clients are. They're in a forbearance agreement. They've got a couple more months that it's supposed to go till September, and they're very fearful of what's going to happen. Right? So unfortunately, when you have a lot of equity in your home, bankruptcy isn't always the best solution, because what happens under Chapter 7 bankruptcy is all your assets above a certain level of exemptions allowed by law are taken from you and sold. And if I have a lot of equity, they're going to take my house and they're going to sell it, and they're going to use that money to pay all my creditors. I've been on David Hochberg's Home Sweet Home Chicago, and David talks about this, and I've talked about this often, is that, if you see what's going to happen, maybe, and the market's the highest that it's been in many, many years. If you put a house up for sale because the demand is so high and there's not a lot of houses available, so supply and demand, so not a lot of supply, big demand, price goes up. So value of homes are going up. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm never going to come out of this, maybe now is the time to start thinking about selling your home, right? But before you do that, okay, first you have to know some things, right there. And that's what I'm going to talk about now, about the 4 things you need to know, right? The 4 steps about, we call it full financial recovery. It's part of this COVID recovery plan that's in my office that we offer to people. Because again, if I can do a bankruptcy for you, well, then we'll do a bankruptcy. But what happens if bankruptcy might not be right for you and you don't know enough? You don't know enough about what's going on to know if bankruptcy is right for you, or what if bankruptcy is not right for you? Then what do you do? So this is what the COVID recovery plan is all about. And we've helped many businesses try to rebound from this COVID thing. And so that's what we're going to try to do here today. So let me. So the first thing you do, and there's 4, as I mentioned, there's 4 steps, right? So the first step is protect what you have, right? So many people, when they get into some financial bind, you have to take a stock of what exactly you own. So if you own a home, how do you own the home? If you're married, do you own it in tenancy by the entirety? Now, a lot of people don't understand what this is, right? Tenancy by the entirety is a way that married couples can own a piece of property and protect that property from creditors. And that might be a very important aspect, whether Chapter 7 might be a good option or not, at least for one of the partners, one of the spouses, right? And so you have to figure that out. And then another thing you have to do, figure out what the value of these things are. So if you don't, I don't know, my house might be worth X, and, I don't know, and I owe Y, and I'm not sure how much equity. So first thing you do, figure out what the house is worth. Figure out how you hold title to that house. Figure out how you hold title to your car. Figure out how you hold title to any other property that you have. Do you have money in a retirement account? Do you have if you have other monies in other investment accounts, can you protect that money? So now we're looking to see, again, can I protect these assets? Should I be moving them around? Now, again, this could be, there are what they call fraud statutes here in Illinois, that if you start moving assets around for the sole purpose of depriving your creditors, this is key now, sole purpose, then it might be construed as fraud. But you're not at that place now, but you could still protect your property. You might still be able to. Here's a very good hint about what I'm talking about. If you're getting Social Security, you should never mix monies with your Social Security. So if I have a job, if I'm getting Social Security money, I should take that Social Security money and I should put it into an account. Now, right, the Social Security is always direct deposited now. So direct deposit that Social Security into one account, and then don't put any other money in there. Only put Social Security money in there. Open another account, put other monies in there. And then when you're spending for your expenses, spend that other money first. And then if you have to dip into or use a Social Security, then use a Social Security. But if you're accumulating any money, even a couple $1,000s, you want to do it in this Social Security account and not the other account. And here's the reason why. And this is why people don't understand this. The reason why is Social Security monies are protected 100%. Creditors can't touch them. Okay. But if I'm intermingling those, then I can't prove that it's Social Security money, and then my creditors can take it. So this is just one of the tips that I give people about how, again, protect what you have. That's the first step. Look at your assets. Look at how you hold them. Look how much you owe. Get the value of these things. That's important. That's very important. Okay, the second step. Here we go. Second step. Focus your resources. Okay, now your resources have diminished, but many of your bills have not diminished. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just kind of pass it all around everything a little bit. Don't pay it all. Just pay a little bit to my mortgage, a little bit to my Visa card, a little bit to this loan, a little bit here, a little bit there, and so nobody gets paid in full. Well, that might not be the best option, right? If you're trying to save your home, then you need to focus your resources on that home. Okay, so if I shouldn't be paying bills that are going to mean that if I pay those bills, I won't be able to stay in my home. I got to stay in my home. That's the first and foremost. In a lot of cases, again, not everybody has the same thing. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your home isn't that important to you, and maybe we should think about putting it on the market, right? And how does that begin? What's it worth? And that goes back to the first step. What's it worth? And then we can figure out, well, what can I do? What should I do now? Okay, so the second step, focus your resources. Sometimes that means missing some payments. As I mentioned, excuse me, many of my clients are studious, right? They've never really missed a payment. They don't know what it's like to be in debt or missing payments, and they're afraid because of this. But again, when you have an attorney working with you, what you do is you answer the phone and you say, "Hey, I have an attorney. Call my attorney." If they're a collection company, they're obligated by law to contact your attorney and not to contact you anymore. Okay, so this is important, right? Because you need to. That's one of the things people fear. And then the collection calls start coming, and they berate you and they make you feel bad because you're a deadbeat, this or that. Money is not what makes up somebody, right? And especially in a situation like this, where COVID came in, and it's through no fault of any of yours. It's whose fault is it that COVID came in and the government told me to shut my business and I can't operate? Well, who could have thought that? How could you prepare for that? And so sometimes things beyond your control happen, and it doesn't make you a worse person or a bad person. So focus your resources. That's so important. Again, very, very important. Third thing, enlist stakeholders. And what I mean by this is what the forbearance agreement is, right? Enlisting stakeholders, contacting my mortgage company, say, "Hey, I'm having some trouble. Can I have a forbearance agreement? How about a loan modification? Can I get a loan modification?" I happen to think that loan modifications are going to be a very common thing coming up. And then it's going to be how you present your finances to the mortgage company in order to get the best payment, okay, the lowest, and have them lower your interest rates if you haven't been able. A lot of people having financial problems try to refinance. They can't refinance, right? They're having problems. They don't have enough income now, or their credit's bad, or whatever the reason. But they can't get. They might have access. They might have equity in their home, but they can't access that equity, and that's a killer, right? So enlist these stakeholders. If you're having some credit card debt, contact your credit card companies. Have your attorney contact the credit card companies. Why is that? Because credit card companies know when you get an attorney involved, now things get serious, right? And they're afraid. They're being the creditors are afraid of bankruptcy. They don't know your situation totally. Right. And when you start missing more credit card payments, the statistics show the longer you go, the longer it goes before you made your last payment, the more likely it is that the creditor is never going to get paid. Right. So if I'm current on all my credit cards, and I call my credit card company, now with COVID, they might very well work something out with me, even if I'm current. But historically, if I'm current, they're going to say, "Hey, you're paying me. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to help you at all." But if I start missing payments, all of a sudden the tune changes. And then my lawyer calls them and says, "Hey, you want to work something out with them, or maybe foreclosure or maybe bankruptcy's in the cards." Well, if they file bankruptcy, I'm probably going to get nothing. right? So maybe they'll work with you to help you avoid bankruptcy. Nobody wants to file bankruptcy, right? But sometimes it's the fastest, easiest way to get rid of your debt and start improving your credit again. Okay, so sometimes it's kind of it's not intuitive that might be the truth, but it is the truth. Okay, I've helped a lot of people file bankruptcy, and again, most people don't want to do it, and sometimes you just have to look at the numbers and say, I really don't have another choice. I'm going to tell you my little Abraham Lincoln story. And that's, most people don't know this, but Abraham Lincoln filed for protection under the bankruptcy laws in his younger days. He was running a store with a friend of his who passed away, and he was caught with all of this debt. And I always tell people you have two types of obligations. You have legal obligations and you have moral obligations, right? Bankruptcy can't protect you from these moral obligations, but it can protect you from legal obligations. And that's the kind of protection that Abe Lincoln sought, okay, from these legal obligations. Now, Abe Lincoln was Honest Abe. We all know that. So what did it took him many years, but he went and paid everybody back. Okay? He didn't have to because the law didn't make him, but he felt a moral obligation to do that. But now it was on his terms when he could pay them back, and he did. And this, you could do the same. So just because I filed bankruptcy doesn't mean I can't pay people back. But now it changes the dynamics, because now I don't have to pay you back. You can't take legal action against me. Okay, so that's important. Okay, and then the fourth thing, and this is something. Now you don't want to get to this point, but sometimes you do. And so what's the fourth thing? Prepare to fight. Okay, don't just give up. The fight continues. If you go to foreclosure court, fight them in foreclosure court. If they go to sue you for the credit cards, fight them in the credit card in court for the credit cards. If you could file for protection under the bankruptcy law, now's the time to think, well, maybe I should file bankruptcy, right? And maybe I can get out that way, right? So prepare to fight. Now, actually, all these steps before four is I'm preparing to fight. And I like the chess analogy. I'm putting my chess pieces in the right way, in the right places. So when it's time to make the move and attack, I'm all my pieces are out there where they're supposed to be. Okay? And then I'm in a much better spot to come out victorious at the end. It's not guaranteed, but I'm much better off, right? So that's what these whole four steps are about, is putting my pieces in place so the chance of success have greatly increased. Okay, so that's what we talked about today. I hope you learned something today. I know I always do. I always learn something. So now, things I'm going to ask you: share, like, subscribe. Okay, share, like, subscribe. If you found this interesting or you found it helpful, share it with a friend. If you know someone who's having financial, share it with a friend. If you know someone in business and share it with a friend. Like it here on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Okay, we need to get this information out to people so they can recover from this problem. So thanks again for joining us. I appreciate your viewership. And again, share, like, subscribe. Share, like, subscribe. Thanks again. And I look forward to talking to you. Now, Monday, this is Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, I do my radio show, and we're going to be live on watchtalkradio.com and Facebook and YouTube. Watchtalkradio.com. This show's every night on watchtalkradio.com too. And we're on about 2:00 in the afternoon for a couple of hours. So again, share, like, subscribe. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again next Monday.